When most people look at a Dunkin' drive-through line wrapping around the block at 7 in the morning, they see a coffee empire printing liquid gold. They calculate the $3 lattes, multiply them by thousands of morning commuters, and assume the owner of that franchise is quietly becoming a local millionaire. But if you look at the raw corporate filings, the actual system-wide balance sheets, you discover a truth that completely shatters that illusion. The person who owns that store isn't actually in the coffee business at all. They are caught in a brilliantly designed financial labyrinth where the brand always wins, and the owner takes all the risk. To understand how this trap actually works, you first have to look at the lie every aspiring entrepreneur gets sold on day one. Most people believe buying a franchise is the ultimate shortcut to financial freedom. You buy a proven name, you follow a playbook, and you collect passive income. And on paper, Dunkin' looks like the crown jewel of quick-service restaurants. Average store sales regularly push past $1.4 million annually, with profit margins that look incredibly healthy from the outside. So, an ambitious investor pulls together their life savings, liquidates their investments, and signs a corporate agreement to open a location. They think they are purchasing a high-margin coffee and bakery business. What they don't realize, until the first monthly corporate ledger arrives, is that Dunkin' corporate doesn't actually care how many donuts you sell. They aren't relying on your coffee margins to fund their multi-billion-dollar valuation. They built something far more lucrative and far more dangerous for the operator, to uncover the real money engine. You have to look past the espresso machines and dive straight into the franchise disclosure document. While you are focused on daily foot traffic and local labor costs, Dunkin' corporate operates as a glorified real estate holdco and fee collection machine. Before your doors even open, you pay an initial franchise fee just for the right to use the logo. But that is standard. The real lever of control comes from the ongoing corporate tax, a non-negotiable royalty fee carved directly off your gross revenue, not your net profit. Think about what that means for a second. Whether your store operates at a massive loss or a soaring profit, corporate takes 5% of every single dollar that passes through the register, right off the top. And then comes the second blow, the required advertising fund contribution. Another 4% of your gross top-line sales, disappearing into a corporate marketing pool before you pay a single employee, buy a single bag of coffee beans, or pay a single utility bill. 9% of your total revenue is gone before you even calculate what it costs to actually run the store. Take a mid-tier operator, generating $1.3 million in annual top-line revenue, before they pay rent, before they pay wages, before they cover insurance. Nearly $120,000 is instantly wired back to corporate headquarters. If a store suffers a terrible quarter, if severe inflation drives up milk prices, or if labor costs surge, the franchisee absorbs 100% of the financial pain. Corporate still collects their full royalty check on every dollar sold, entirely insulated from your store's operational nightmare. It is a system built to guarantee corporate profits regardless of local economic reality. But as heavy as those top-line fees are, they aren't even the primary trap. The real trap, the masterstroke of financial engineering, sits inside the physical building itself. Consider a classic franchisee story. An operator spends 3 years grinding 60 hours a week, mastering inventory, optimizing speed at the window, and finally turning a consistent profit. They think they own a business. Then, the lease renewal comes up. In a vast majority of top-tier franchise locations, Dunkin' corporate, or its real estate affiliates, controls the master lease on the property. You aren't paying a local commercial landlord. You are paying a lease markup directly to the franchisor. You aren't just a business owner operating under a banner. You are a subtenant on a property you will never own. If you want to negotiate rent, you can't. If corporate mandates a mandatory $200,000 store redesigned to match their newest modern layout, you pay for it out of pocket, or risk losing your lease rights entirely. You bear the debt for the equipment. You take out the personal loans for the construction. and you handle every labor headache at 5 in the morning. Yet, you are essentially managing a piece of real estate that corporate uses to print consistent, risk-free leasing yield. And just when an operator thinks they've figured out how to balance these land lease costs and top-line royalties, corporate unleashes their most aggressive growth strategy yet. It's called market saturation, or as insiders call it, territory cannibalization. Imagine your store is finally hitting peak efficiency, pulling in heavy morning rush traffic from a major commuter highway. You are finally clearing a solid net margin. Then, a new Dunkin drive-thru pops up less than 2 miles down the road, on the exact same morning commute path. To the franchise owner, this is an absolute disaster. Your foot traffic drops by 20% overnight. Your morning drive-thru line thins out. Your fixed costs stay identical, but your net profit plunges. To corporate, however, this is a massive win. 2 stores slightly cannibalizing each other might lower individual store profitability. But combined, they capture 20% more total commuter market share in that region, since corporate collects their fee on gross revenue. Total regional revenue goes up. Corporate's royalty check grows, while both individual store owners are left fighting over smaller slices of the profit pie. You are forced to compete not just against Starbucks or local coffee shops, but against your own brand's aggressive expansion map. So, how do top operators survive this operational pressure cooker? They rely on the one thing that keeps the entire unit economic model from collapsing under its own weight: absurdly high product margins. A single cup of brewed coffee costs a store pennies to manufacture, but sells for $3 to $4. The markup on specialty syrups, liquid sugar shots, and espresso upgrades can top 800%. The drive-thru is designed as a psychological machine. Every menu board, every digital prompt, every bundled offer is calibrated to raise the average ticket size by just 60 cents. Because in a business where 9% of gross sales disappears instantly to corporate, and labor takes another 30%, those extra 60-cent add-ons are literally the difference between breaking even and staying solvent. If an operator can keep drive-thru times under 45 seconds per car, the sheer volume of high-margin coffee can cover the massive overhead debt. Which brings us to the ultimate question every potential investor eventually faces. If the corporate structure takes top-line revenue, controls the real estate, forces costly store remodels, and saturates your local market, why do people still line up to buy Dunkin' franchises? Because when scaled correctly, by mega operators running 20, 30, or 50 locations, the system transforms entirely. Multi-unit syndicates can amortize management costs, leverage massive purchasing power, and turn small percentage margins into millions of dollars in net corporate cash flow.